excited this morning to have Lourdes Zuniga from Financial Health Pathways in Austin, Texas. Welcome. How are you?
Good, Lori. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Great. So what is your role at FHP?
My role is Executive Director and Founder at the Financial Health Pathways. And we are a nonprofit organization in Texas that works on improving the financial health of underserved communities. We advocate for fair financial services and providing education and resources to underserved communities so they can achieve financial freedom.
That's great. So if you were to talk about the vision and mission of your organization, how would you describe those?
You know, as I mentioned previously, our mission is to provide financial services that are fair to all communities. We know that the wealthy have a number of products and services from the banking industry and financial services, but it's the underserved community that faces the most barriers. So we try to advocate and have more equitable practices for those that do not have or have little or no resources and access to capital. Our vision is a community that has fair financial services for everyone and that everyone has an opportunity for economic development.
That's awesome. And how would you define financial health? What would be your definition of financial health?
Financial health is a fairly new concept. In the recent, I would say, 5-6 years, have been more developed, and is the ability for a person to weather the storms of an unexpected expense. Is the ability to pay for everything you need, your bills, your mortgage, your rent, but also to be able to afford certain things that you don't plan. It can be an illness, it can be being laid off of work. We know through pandemic there were a lot of those cases and people did not have the ability to cover those expenses. And so financial health is a concept where you're ready to face the expected and unexpected financial challenges. So it's something that stems from the social determinants of health. And two of the pillars that we address is education and economic opportunity. So those two pillars are embedded into what we consider a healthy environment for people to thrive. And so those are the ones we address.
And do you find that there is a link from financial health to overall, well-being, so mental health, physical health? Do you find there's a link there?
Absolutely. I've done extensive research and actually work with a couple of foundations on how that is connected. So we at FHP work at the intersection of health and finances. And when people say that's a really difficult connection, I would say no, because a lot of the recent data and studies that have been conducted about chronic diseases, they all stem from stress. And what most people are stressed about is money. If you go to the workforce and try to assess productivity, most people are not as productive as they could be, not because they don't want to, but because they're preoccupied on rent and bills that are piling up. And through pandemic, when people, lost the ability to work, lost some hours, in many cases, the entire employment status, people really became more stress, not just physically, but also mentally, and that is draining. So the studies show that the more stress people have, the more we develop chronic diseases, and they're all stem from financial worries. And so we like to think that there is a big connection to finances and physical and mental health.
Yeah. And what barriers do you see, particularly for the underserved, in getting to financial health? What are some areas that, you help with?
Well, there's definitely a lot of barriers just in the sense of having access. A lot of the communities we serve that are immigrant communities that perhaps cannot even open a bank account because they don't really have the necessary paperwork. And I think that that's why, it's important that we bring that awareness of what are the other choices, what are the places where they can go and get, if not all the services, some of the basic services. So access to capital is important. Also, culturally relevant services, because a lot of them, as I said, from immigrant communities, they might not speak the language. And I'm not even talking about English and Spanish. I'm talking about all the number of languages that, a lot of the immigrant communities have as the primary language. And how are the financial services catering to those communities, or aren't they not catering to them? And the opportunity is great, but I think that we need to really create some awareness of how important it is for those underbanked or unbanked to be a part of the system, so they can have some informed parameters, so they can build their wealth in an informed way. And I think that that's the challenge for many organizations and for our communities and the communities that we serve.
And so what does your organization do? I know you mentioned awareness, but I know you do other things as well. Could you talk about some of the ways you help in this area?
Sure. We do work a lot with financial institutions and bringing that awareness of critical issues like predatory lending, the lack of access to small dollar amounts that most people will say, I don't want $10,000 from a bank. All I want is $500 because I need to pay rent. So we create this network of people, and credit unions are a big part of that, because credit unions are member driven, they are customer service driven, and they're not as rigid as most of the big banks. And so I think it's important to create that network of people that can serve these communities in many capacities. So the work we do with banks, credit unions, financial organizations, and everyone that, has some part in the financial mainstream is important for us. And I think that the work that we do, it's important in the sense is we have the trust of the community. We are an unbiased organization, and we like to think that, the work that we've done throughout the years, communities trust that we have their best interests at heart. And how do we create those connections? If somebody comes to us and said, I don't have paperwork, what can I do? We usually say there are a lot of credit unions you can get a matriculate counselor, you can get even a government ID from your country that has a picture of you, and it doesn't have to be a U.S. document. And so a lot of them go to credit unions because they have that flexibility. So we make those connections, and we also do the work with the financial organizations to see in what way they can cater better to those underserved communities.
And what are some examples in the credit unions, let's say, that you've worked with, of some initiatives that they're involved with?
Thank you for asking that. I'm very excited about recent development. To backtrack on that, before pandemic, we do events that are financial related, and we did this financial inclusion panel during Financial Inclusion Week. And we invited some representatives of the House, some people that are involved in this type of activity, and we also invited a credit union, Amplify Credit Union. And so we had this conversation about how fees, banking fees, are a barrier to our communities. $3 might not be a lot for someone that has a lot of money, but for people that really are paycheck to paycheck, $3-4 every month when they do withdrawals and they overdraft like money, it's a lot of money. And so this credit union, Amplify Credit Union, we're so proud of them, because this year they released this announcement and big initiative. They went away with all the fees in their products. And so that's a model of what we like to see from other organizations. And, I had a conversation with their CEO, and, he was so proud of saying, we like to partner with organizations like FHP because they bring that awareness to us of what are the issues that communities are facing that we don't know. And they not only listen, but they actually took action. And I'm very proud of Amplify Credit Union for having that mentality of, it's not just to listen, it's to pull the trigger and take action and put our money where our mouth is. And so it's a very great initiative, and we hope that other organizations in the financial system can follow that.
That's great. And I know that, one of the things you work on is structural changes. And I think you work with governments and maybe with I remember that you and I talked earlier about something around parking tickets. I just wonder if you could talk about some of the work you've done in those areas.
Our financial justice program is such a great initiative, and it's almost my pride and joy. I started, with a small pilot program, and we have this judge that came to us and said, everybody that comes through my court with these parking tickets and these minor traffic offenses, when I asked them, why didn't you not have a license? Why did you not have insurance? And they all say, I didn't have money. So I kind of thought, oh, this is more a financial issue. So I researched and found you. What would be the solution? And so I designed this program where it's not only understanding the legality of things, but how can you budget for things like that? And what's the importance of not having this record? And a lot of people in our communities that come through the door are low-income communities in this case, and people that really didn't understand why it's important. It's not just that ticket, it's not just that fine, it's the consequences of that. It's like you have a record, you can't rent, you can't have a job. In many cases, they take your license away if you go too many times to the court. And so they realize, oh my gosh, this is a big deal. So we designed this program, and we're very excited about the evolution of the program, because to date, we expanded to juvenile services, and this program has been awarded 4 different awards statewide and as best practice, and it's been recognized statewide because of it's a very innovative way to change the way a judge sees people through the court. Instead of penalizing them, what it does is it dismiss the case and waive the fines and fees. And to date, in 2 years, this program has dismissed almost 2,000 cases and waived over $500,000 in fines and fees. And that's without counting the money we save the court from prosecuting those cases. And so it is a big deal, and it's actually systemic change because, again, we are changing the way a judge looks at people through the court. And instead of giving them a penalty that they might come back, and the studies show that they come back time and time and time again, what it does is it teaches them the importance of having these things that are not just a checkbox. And they realize, okay, so I have to do this because I don't want to go back to the court, and I don't want to lose my license, or I don't want to lose my job because of these consequences.
Oh, that's great. And I believe you've been working on getting a bill passed. And am I correct in that?
Yes. So this past session, we worked with Senator Carol Alvarado in Houston, and we designed this bill that created a personal financial education class for high school students. The bill passed successfully, and we're very proud of that because, again, we work not just to provide what we call Band-Aid services. We work to change systems and to make systems more fair to all communities. And I think that having this class of personal financial education is foundational education that our students need to enter the workforce and, be young adults, but be responsible in their lives and not just spend money that they don't have. And I think that because we don't have that foundational knowledge, I think that a lot of it explains the high levels of debt and the number of consequences that we have in our young generation that aren't getting married, aren't having kids, aren't buying homes because they already feel so burdened with their education student loans. And so I think that this class potentially can change the life of many people, particularly in the historically underserved communities.
Oh, that's amazing. It's great work. And I know another initiative you have is called I Save Texas. I wonder if you could talk about what that is.
So this is our newest program. This is a way to not just have classes and deliver knowledge to our communities, but to give them the ability to practice what they learn. And it's an asset building initiative. It's technology based, where we ask people to save for 5 months, and they save a small amount of money, and we match that amount. And so through the course of the program, they learn about finances, they practice. It's almost like a game base. It's almost like a Facebook with games. And at the end of the program, they save $100, and we match $200 to that, but we also give them the opportunity to enter to a chance to get a debt reduction if they complete the program successfully. And by doing that, we're trying to exercise the muscle of savings. I mean, that is not something that comes naturally to anybody, I think. I think we always have to make compromises with not spending money on things we like, but it's also not I think that a lot of people have the idea that savings is all or nothing, right? That being financially stable is be miserable in your life. And that is farther from the truth. I think that you make compromises. Today, you don't buy 5 things, you buy 3. And the money that you could spend on 2, you save that. And so I think that having that discipline of like enjoying things in life, but also saving some for whenever you have an emergency, it's important. So this program, what it does is teaches people that it's not an all or nothing. You can save small amount of money, and at the end you have rewards because you have a little cushion when something happens and you're not preoccupied or worried about what's going to happen to me if I lose my job or if I get sick. So it's an initiative that, we hope that can provide that small incentive for people to start saving. And the study shows that, people save and continue saving after they graduated from the program. So I think that there's something to be said about the economics and the nudges that come with this program.
Yeah, no, congratulations on that initiative. There are underserved areas in markets for all credit unions. And what would your advice be to credit unions, 2 or 3 things that they should be doing to make sure they are serving underserved communities?
That's a great question. I think that my biggest advice would be, don't come from a place of assumption. Ask them what they need. Ask them what's the best way to serve them. Because usually, even in philanthropy, I always say this to funders. Usually, we hire consultants to do, outside work and external work to find those answers. The answers are usually within the communities you serve. You don't have to hire a consultant for that. You go to the person that you're trying to serve. You go to those groups that you're trying to serve, and you get this open-ended question: how can I serve you? You get those answers and you build that strategy. And that's what we did with Financial Health Pathways. When I took the organization 5 years ago, the first thing I did was an assessment of, okay, who are our partners? Who are our clients? And I went to the clients to ask them, what do they need? And the first thing they said is, we need to have this knowledge in Spanish or in other languages, because if they don't understand it, financial matters are such a personal thing that if you don't communicate to them in their language, or if you don't make an effort to understand the culture of, the habits that every culture has around money, then you're making assumptions. So that would be my biggest thing is, ask communities that you're serving how you can serve them. And the second thing, communicating that in a way that they can understand. I think that, we, in the financial industry, we do sometimes a terrible job at talking to people in a language that they can understand. And I'm not even saying like the English language, but we're so technical. We talk about APRs, but we don't talk in the language that people understand, like everyday language. And I think that once we did that in my organization, we start talking about paying your bills, paying your rent. When we start talking like that to people were like very interested in learning more. But when we talk about in the technicality of the financial industry, they were like, oh man, I lost you at this. And so, that would be my second advice, is to try to communicate with people in a language that they can understand, an everyday language, and lose the technicality in many instances, not in all, but the technicality can be such a turn off for some communities. And I think the third thing is be open to innovation. I think that a lot of people have this they have this way of like, things are done this way and they have been done this way for a long time. And they have such fear, and that's the word I was trying to look. But, a lot of people have a fear of change and innovation. But I think that is the great thing that for us has worked, is that we look for innovation. How can we do things in a different way? And that has been so liberating for us. Our financial justice program was based on that. Our I Save Texas initiative was based on that. Things that no one has done before in our region. And we have already success. But it wasn't perfect from the beginning. We made adjustments to it. So I think that it's just being flexible about that, how the execution of things, but having that innovation front and center has been very critical for the work that we do with communities that, perhaps do not have those services.
Yeah. Now you'll be humble here, but I know you have won yourself personally many awards and accolades. And I wonder if you could just talk about, I think it's the Presidential Scholar. I might have that wrong, but I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about, the recognition you've got from, the presidential office.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you. This has been probably the highlight of my career. I was named Presidential Scholar this year and had the pleasure of sharing that opportunity with 59 scholars that around the country were selected by it's the LBJ Foundation, the George Bush Foundation, Bill Clinton Foundation, and J.W. Bush Foundation.
Wow.
So all four foundations had this program as a Presidential Leadership Scholars. And it's a very competitive program. It's a program that I never thought I would be in that group of selected people that get to work with people that have worked for presidential office and get to meet. I got the pleasure of meeting President Clinton and President Bush, and it truly was an opportunity for me to learn from other people, other amazing scholars that are doing great things in the community. And it has been humbling in a way that I never thought I would experience something like that. I'm an immigrant. I moved to the U.S. 21 years ago from Peru. I was born in Lima and came here in my young 20s. And, for someone like me, my journey has never, I don't think that my journey has been glamorous, as most people might think. I started from the very bottom. And it has been an interesting journey for sure. Had many, many times where I didn't really think I was going to make it. But fast forward to today, I think the Presidential Leadership Scholar journey has been an opportunity for me to learn more about myself and my capabilities and to really advocate more for the communities that I represent. The rate of Hispanic acceptance in this program is 3%. So just being a Latina and being in that space and being a part of that 3%, I think has even fueled me more to advocate for people that look like me and hope that they can get places and aim high and go to higher places than I have. And I just think that it's definitely a highlight in my career and personally as well. And just the pleasure of meeting the scholars and meeting everyone that was involved in that program. It's definitely something a memory that I will treasure for the rest of my life.
Well, congratulations. And, you're doing very important work and you're an important leader. I wonder if you could just maybe, from your perspective, what are 3 keys, do you think, to being a good leader?
I don't know how to explain it, but I think I can go back to even my personal journey. I think that having humility and embracing servant leadership has served me well. I'm an introvert, so I tend to always run away from attention. And I think for me, it's always trying to embrace the communities I represent. And to channel that through my experience has been perhaps one of the best strategies I had, because it takes me a while to be in front of a camera, be in front of people when I'm doing a speaking engagement. But I remember having the advice of a really great person that I met at a foundation, Will Buster, and he said, if you phrase it in your head and frame it as, think of the young girls that look like you, and seeing you, it makes them feel like they can be you someday. And if you phrase it and reframe it that way in your head, maybe it would be a little bit easier. And that was the best advice I got. So I guess I'll pass that on and say, if not for you, do it for the people that you represent, that will look at you and say, well, it is possible. If she's there, I could be there too. And so that's one thing that, for me, I have really great friends that keep me grounded, and I think that I like to embrace humility in every chance I can. And I think life has taught me to be humble and to not think things are just coming my way because I'm deserving of them. And it's also for me the sense of responsibility that the more accolades you get, the more you have to work hard to be deserving of those recognitions that you have. And remembering always how this all began and my beginnings, I think it's also something that I try to do every day. I was telling a friend of mine the other day that she knows me for almost the entire time I've been here. And she said, remember when you were like with me in like daycare? And I had 2 jobs that I took when I was first new in this country. And one was a prep cook, and then the other one was a daycare teacher. I was a toddler teacher. And so those 2 jobs actually were the ones that I remember the most if I go back to that time where that young Lourdes that moved here. And it keeps me grounded. It makes me remember the difficulties of navigating this system and learning about the culture and what to do and what not to do. Yeah. And now that I'm in spaces that are a little bit less flexible for me to make mistakes, and people expect you to be all together and have this idea of you as someone that is in the public eye. But I remember the time where it wasn't so glamorous. And that keeps me grounded.
Yeah, no, it's remembering your roots. And I love the quote, and you are representing, we all represent different groups, and you're just doing a great job. So I really thank you for that. So that's the end of our more formal questions. I have a couple of fun questions for you. You okay for those?
I'm ready.
All right. So I have this vault here. It's a very expensive vault. And
oh my goodness.
I know. So I'm going to put the code in here. No, I think we have a couple of questions for you. So Lourdes, if you were an animal, what animal would you be and why?
I think I'll be a horse. And I like to run free.
Okay.
I like to just be wild. Most people think of me as someone that is all put together. It's, very calm and do classical music. That is so not me. I like to run free. I like to be funny, and not a lot of people get to do that. I guess it's interesting how in the spaces that I'm in, I have to be serious, to be taken seriously. And so I reserve that for like a very small group of people, but I'm someone that, I can run in my flip-flops. I don't like to dress up. I'm like always running free. And I think that I will be a horse. Like I will be careless.
I like it. One other one. What is something about you people would be surprised to know?
I am into frivolous things to get through my days, and I have no apologies for that. I follow Korean K-pop band. I'm a big fan of BTS.
Oh, okay.
And I embrace them as artists, but also as leaders that have struggled with a lot of discrimination. I identify with them a lot in their journey and how difficult it has been for them. So I not only care about their craft and their music, and they're very talented, but also their story and their message of loving oneself first and embracing in all kinds of forms. And, I'm into a lot of I use my brain a lot through my day and have to be always very strategic. So the escape when I'm trying to decompress is always just, a fashion show, music that most people don't think I'll enjoy, or, even TV that most people wouldn't watch. So it's a way for me to kind of change that, and from serious to more and I'm just I think most of my friends will say I'm very unpredictable. And that's something that not a lot of people think of me. And when they get to know me, they're like, oh, I never thought that you would do something like that. I'm a very predictable person, I guess.
Oh, those are great answers. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and also for the great work that your organization is doing. It's very necessary, and financial matters can be confusing, and I think, your organization helping both, credit unions and the underserved and bringing them together, I think is just honorable. So thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lawrie, for having me and share this conversation with you and your audience. And thank you for the work you're doing to bring that awareness of these issues, because I think that our communities are better for people like you that are bringing the critical issues to the front and center and having these conversations.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that.